Hi guys, it's Kamau. Welcome back to my channel. This is part 3 in the series, this Father's Day special for 2020, Father's Day. If you missed parts 1 and 2, I urge you to go check them out. You'll find some very powerful messages for men in general and fathers in particular. So I'm continuing with the series. There should be at least one more parts to this series, so you can watch out for that as well. And so I'm going to be reading from one of my books entitled Mother, which is a collection of thoughts on the family. So I have selected now for this special those passages that have to do specifically with fatherhood. So bear with me now as I turn away from you and read from the screen. This one is entitled Men Who Are Afraid. What happens when a man does not have a natural inclination to protect? Or if he does, what if the power of the foe overwhelms him? I have looked into the eyes of men who are afraid. They find different ways of venting, of hiding, of deflecting. I can't say that I blame them. I can't say that I respect them. I can't. Our warriors are untrained, the young ones and the old. They are overexposed to violence, but untrained in combat. What happens when our men are mighty scared? We know what happens. We've seen what happens. Now, this is a very powerful thought, a very sad one too, because when your warriors are afraid, what happens to you? What becomes of you? You know, the warriors are the ones who, as the passage says, are trained for combat. Not necessarily trained for violence or because of the overexposure to violence, but are you trained for combat? For selective and very the kind of it's a kind of defense that is not just reactionary, but with strategy. Are our warriors trained for strategy to protect us? And actually they are not. And I see the fear in the eyes of our men, because they're up against, something that is very overwhelming, and as a collective we have to come together and see how to strategize so that our warriors can defend us in a very strategic way, in a proactive way. So I wrote this piece because of the reality of seeing even some of those persons who put themselves in positions of influence in the struggle for black power. You see the fear in them. You see the fear, and it's very painful to watch. So as a collective, we need to come together and see how we can best defend ourselves. Not just physically, I'm not just saying take up weapons and run to the hills. I'm saying psychologically, economically, education-wise, how do we protect ourselves? How do we defend ourselves? Something to think about. Alright, so the next piece, I'm going to scroll down now to another page. So this one is entitled The Importance of Male Mentors. Very, very, very important. Male mentors. At least 4 sessions each week, I am surrounded by men who demand 100% physical effort from me. Their words are sharp and their tone is regimental, and sometimes the tasks seem impossible, but I know they mean me well. This is exactly what I signed up for. Some of these men are much younger than I am, and they are senior to me in terms of rank and hence of experience. They have a lot to teach. I have a lot to learn. I submit myself. It is a privilege when we have people in our lives who demand the very best of us and who are even willing to impose some tough love if we do not rise to the occasion. This is ultimately to our benefit. I am also very pleased with the way that my children respond to these men, who are actually playing the role of father figure to them in this capacity, the village. Very precise instructions, very stern words, very high expectations. Once in a while, these macho men seem to have something to prove, and their egos do get in the way. But all in all, their intentions are good. Martial arts training is positive in several ways, not the most important of which is self-defense. I would say the self-defense tactics are the broader, the default. Perhaps more important are self-discipline, the ability to understand and follow clear instructions, the mental faculty that is developed in memorizing countless katas and sequences and techniques and Japanese terminology, the indomitable spirit that is being cultivated daily, the team spirit and camaraderie that is generated for a shared domicile, the respect for those in authority, the respect for those who paved the way and laid the foundation, the respect for those who are subordinate to us. We bow in sequence to everyone in the dojo. We bow to the dojo itself, to the shrine of the flag and the symbols that the founders established. Maintaining physical fitness and discipline are at least just as important to me as self-defense. People often complain that they have no time for this and no time for that, but we all have the same 24 hours to each day, and we are all exceedingly busy. So it all boils down to priority. I believe I made a wise decision in incorporating karate training into our lives. So this piece I wrote, I remember going to karate class because we trained 4 days per week, myself and my children. And when you're in class, when you're in the dojo and you're training, these hulky guys, they shout at you, they demand things of you, and they really push you. But it's good. It's good, especially for my children, my sons. Seeing these men in command and being instructed by them, I saw it as a very good thing to expose them to. Right, so I wrote that piece in that regard, having positive male leadership roles, especially for the boys. Alright, so I'll read another piece, scrolling down. This one is entitled Raising Well-Adjusted Males. The feminization of males is something that I have thought about a lot. I have 2 sons and 2 daughters, female, male, female, male, in that order. And I understood long ago that how they are nurtured in the home would affect their notion of gender as it relates to their own self-concept, intimate relationships, and societal roles. My children grew with their father in the home, and even now that he and I are no longer together, he still maintains a strong presence. Both of my sons have soft facial features, and they have been mistaken for girls by strangers for years and years. It doesn't help that I have never cut their hair, and they both still wear it long in plaits and cornrows. 10-year-old and 18-year-old, well, at that time, they're older now. But we have instilled in them such a strong sense of self that they have never been fazed by anyone calling them a girl. At most, they have been mildly annoyed, but they are generally either amused or just shrug it off. So the question is, how does one engender a strong and positive self-concept in boys in this time of gender fluidity and what some have called the agenda to effeminize black males? First, what do we mean by effeminate? Is it effeminate for boys to do so-called female chores? Is it effeminate for boys to cry or cuddle or write love letters? Is it effeminate for boys to be unable to fight or make a kite or score a goal? What if he's not interested in sports at all? Should we press the panic button or try to return him to sender? Is it effeminate for a boy to want to enroll in dance class or act out skits or to play with dolls? Should I allow him to see my sanitary napkins and tampons if he enters my bathroom? Should he be allowed to know when I'm on my period? Can I ask him to take my panties off the line if the rain suddenly starts to drizzle? Should I be concerned if he has many female friends? For me, none of the above things are effeminate behaviors in a male. In fact, I believe that they are wholesome, and if your son, no matter what age, is secure in his own skin doing these things, then more power to him and more power to you, because it means that you have done something right, and he will more than likely make a supportive, sensitive mate. In my opinion, an effeminate boy would be one who, in spite of his obvious biological male characteristics, either despises girls and wants nothing to do with them, or despises himself and wants to be a girl. Both extremes are cause for alarm. An effeminate boy goes out of his way to take on the characteristics of a female after nature has already decided, and I don't mean by cuddling a doll, because fathers need to cuddle their babies. He wants to wear girls' clothes in a culture where girls' clothes are specific, and he might even want to undergo sex change operations to undo what nature has done. This male usually displays depressive and or obsessive behaviors. He may not feel a natural urge to defend and protect his sisters or female classmates. In fact, he may initiate aggression and inflict harm upon them without remorse. A boy will naturally jump to the defense of his sisters and his female friends. When I speak about a male taking on female characteristics, I am being specific to physical characteristics achieved through surgery or makeup or cross-dressing, etc. Transforming his penis into a vagina, taking hormone therapy to soften his voice and remove his hair, etc. This is a deliberate decision to undo what nature has done. A strong, solid, stable male presence is needed in a boy's life. This ideally includes his biological father, but is by no means limited to him. Uncles, grandfather, stepfather, male teachers, coaches, etc. can serve as solid male figures. These men must be respectable and good role models. For my sons, I have found it very beneficial for them to be enrolled in karate class. The karate instructors exude a spirit of firmness and discipline. They give orders, they lead by example, and they expect compliance. Through all this regiment, the male child still senses that his best interest is at heart, and most of all, he will be held accountable for his actions. I have also found good role models in black men whom I myself have never met, but I have been inspired by their way of life and worldview as expressed in their books and speeches. I listen to their speeches and expose my children, male and female, to them. These are men like Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Dr. Ben, and others who accomplished great things and lived exemplary lives. They are outstanding fathers and husbands, which I would like for my sons to one day become. A boy who understands that he is neither superior nor inferior to a girl should have no problem adjusting to manhood. I tend to get more boys in my class than girls. Nationally, boys have been lagging behind in academics, and so when I get them, I have the challenge of bringing their self-esteem up to speed while not letting the ego override them. It is a task because the minute they find themselves excelling, then they are tempted to declare that boys are smarter than girls, at which point I have to say, objection, and the dialogue begins, a teachable moment. Sure, there can be division of roles. Nature does it, the body does it. Anyone involved in industry knows that this makes for order and optimal efficiency. It needs not make for feelings of divisiveness and subjugation. Roles may be strict or they may be fluid, depending on your taste and what has been agreed upon, whether on the personal or societal level. But if a boy feels disrespected or demeaned by being asked to do a traditional female chore, then it means that he does not have a healthy regard for females in the first place, and this needs to be fixed. On the whole, in terms of brute strength, men are physically stronger than women. I don't feel that as a woman, I should set out to prove myself physically stronger, because I know I am not. There are a few women who are, but they are the exceptions. Physical strength does not equate superiority by any stretch. After pushing 4 children into the world, and after witnessing several men who have been afflicted by the common cold, I would venture to assert that women are psychologically the stronger sex. This doesn't make us superior either. We are different. We balance each other out. We complement each other. There are things that I can do by myself if I have to, that I would prefer a man to do for me. On the other hand, there are things that a man can do for himself, but a woman's touch makes all the difference. If we point these things out to our boys and girls, they will come to see that balance and reciprocity, not competition, should be their driving force. That was a long one, quite a mouthful. Raising well-adjusted males. And the final one for this part, for part 3, I'm going to read a little clip about when my grandfather was very ill shortly before he died, and I visited him in the hospital, right? So my grandfather. The title is Bathing My Grandfather. A memory popped up this morning of when my grandfather was in the hospital at KPH, shortly before he died. I was very fond of my grandfather, and I don't think he understood me, so we didn't spend much time together when I became an adult. I've always appreciated my grandfather's dedication to us children while we were coming up. He woke at the crack of dawn. You notice I'm always talking about this. My grandfather waking me up. He woke at the crack of dawn and got us ready for school and walked with us up the hill and waited till we were safely on the bus. He was a hardy man who enjoyed his life and tried to outrun the diabetes, but it caught up with him. I know for sure that he didn't like being in the hospital. My grandfather suffered from diabetes for many years. As a child, I accompanied him to St. Thomas to visit his brother in the hospital. His brother's leg had been amputated due to diabetes, and I remember my grandfather expressing that he would never want that to happen to him. He wanted to go to his grave with all his limbs intact, and he did. But shortly before his death, the poor circulation from the diabetes had caused his skin to itch and chafe and feel like he was constantly being pricked by pins, as he described it to us. His feet especially were severely cracked and painful. It was like death creeping up his body from his feet. That's how he described it. So I visited him in the hospital. He hated being there, and I hated being there. I detest hospitals and avoid them at all costs. But for him, I endured. I was about 26 years old at the time, with 2 young children. He was in his 60s. After I had been talking with my grandfather for some time, the nurse came in and very casually said, "Are you going to bathe him?" And I promptly said yes. It hadn't even occurred to me what that would be all about. And then it dawned on me I was going to be giving my grandfather a sponge bath. It could become awkward, but the old chap didn't let it be. He resigned himself to the indignity of being washed by someone whose mother's diapers he had changed. I sponged him down thoroughly, and he didn't give me any attitude. The moment was so special, and everyone who visited him after that was told about how his granddaughter had bathed him. I could see it meant a lot to him too. I'm not sure why this memory popped into my head this morning. My grandfather has been dead for 17 years. So I'm closing with that piece for part 3, the memory of giving my grandfather a sponge bath in the hospital. This was very shortly before he died. And that memory stays with me. I'm urging you to join me for part 4 as I continue to read pieces from my book Mother, Mother, picking out the special pieces that relate to fatherhood on this Father's Day. If you have not subscribed to my channel, you know you need to do that now. So go ahead and do that, and then look for part 4.